Welcome to Coding Studio. This is B, and today we are going to be continuing the JavaScript tutorials. We have started from the basics, code variables yesterday, or in the last video. I'm not sure how frequently I will upload. And in this video we are going to be talking about mainly if statements, and we are going to be touching on the actions like yeah, I forgot the word for it. So let's open Visual Studio Code. Feel free to code along with me. We are not going to be talking about HTML. So we're going to be talking about operators. We are just going to run through these few here. I'm just going to mention them, and we are going to be mainly talking about the if statements you can see here. These are somewhat detailed explanations of what does what, and I'm going to be showing this to you in practice. But first things first, then let's talk about the operators. Operator is pretty simple. For example, I'm going to put this on the side and create a new file. Let's call it ops.js, and I'm going to put the operators on the side here. So the first one would be addition. So that's pretty easy. Let's create a variable here for a second. I'm just going to be calling it a equals 1, and I'm going to create another one, let b equal 3. So, and then I'm going to make it let c equal a plus b. Now, if you're familiar with the variables I have talked about yesterday, you should be quite sure what the value of c is. It's 4, because 1 and 3 equals 4. And this is our first operator here, this plus. It's just an addition. Let's console. Let's log it out. And it should come as no surprise that we have to go into CD JavaScript. Yep. I'm not sure if I have told you this, but to use the node command, which is basically for server-side JavaScript, what we are doing right now, we are not using it as a server, but sort of like a standalone thing. You have to be in the same folder as your file is. You see, I am in the JavaScript file inside my YouTube tutorials folder, and I have the ops.js, and we are going to be calling that file, and it's going to run our file and log out C to the console, which is 4. We could have guessed it. And also another thing, I didn't tell this to you at the variables thing, but you can actually do something like that. Let's go with t equals 7, comma g equal 8, and this way you declare t and g, and you didn't have to use the let again. Never use this. I showed it to you, but never use it, because it's not very clean code, but there's other option for you. Okay, so our and as you can see here on the other side with the operators, this is a string value and this is a number value. Now these are gonna add it together as strings, so it's gonna put this one after this one, so it will come out as 11. I'm gonna show it to you like this. It's gonna be 13 as a string. You see, it differentiates between numbers and strings. In my terminal it might not be the case for you. For example, Windows PowerShell or CMD doesn't differentiate, but it just puts together and reads it as a string value. The same goes for if both of them are string. And if the first one was actually a number and the second one was a string, the same would happen. So if one is string, it will always happen. It's sort of different with subtraction, which is gonna be our next one. I'm gonna subtract 3 from 1. 1 is a string. As you can see, it does the equation even though 1 is a string value. And while if we are talking addition and we are using strings, this is okay. Now let's actually create something, and both of them are string, and I add them together. As you can see, it prints out string values are awesome because it can add values together like that, so they just append to the end of the first value. Now if I were to subtract, let's try this, to subtract the values, or yeah, values from string values, it wouldn't work. It would give me an error because you cannot subtract from string. It's not a number. NaN means not a number. Well, though it's one of the funny things about JavaScript. If I were to see the type of not a number, then, and let's just comment this out. A single line comment in JavaScript is 2 forward slashes. A multi-line comment is this syntax. So asterisk forward slash, forward slash asterisk and asterisk forward slash, and this is a multi-line comment. But we don't need that right now. I just want to single line this. And if I were to try to see what's the type of not a number, it would be a number, which is kind of funny. It's one of the sillinesses of JavaScript. Okay, so back to it. Now you can, as you can see, you cannot subtract a string from a string, but that's only true if the string values are not actually numbers. So in this case it would be 11 as a number, not a string value, as we saw with the additions. So it's all nice, and most of the cases, most of the operators follow the same rules as subtraction, that you can do operations with string values as long as they are numbers inside, no matter which one or both are string. But as you can see, I have already wrote that here for you, so you can go and check it. Now modulus, this is a pretty cool operator. I think you might want to look into that and try stuff with it, because it will come up quite a lot if you're working mainly on backend, but sometimes on frontend too. Okay, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, exponentiation, that's pretty much the same as I've written here. You raise the first number to the power of the second number. 2 on the power of 10 is 100, 1024, 1024. Okay, there are shorthands for this. So if I were to say A plus equal B, and as I've said, these are numbers this time because we are adding and the rules apply. So A plus equals B is basically the same as A equals A plus B, like this. And these semicolons are not mandatory. I usually try to pay attention to put them there, but you don't have to if you don't want to. A lot of people don't use them on purpose. So if we were to console.log a this time, we are going to console.log it 2 times actually, or log it 2 times, because the first time is going to be here. So a is 13, a plus equals b, which means it's 15. 13 plus 2. And again, now a is equal to 15 because of this operation, plus 2, 17. 15, 17, as you can see. At least I hope you can see. So 15 and 17. That's pretty much it about the operators. Let's go with equation though. So actually I don't need to delete all of them. If there is the equity or equality, or I'm not sure. So let's say now this would just make it that a becomes equal to b, which is which is 2. So if I did this, a and b would be both 2. But what I want to do is compare if they are equal or not. Now the way to do that is double. That's one thing, and you are not going to use it. If you are going to be a front-end or a back-end or any JavaScript developer, you are not going to use 2 equation signs. I will show you in a minute why. So if I run this, it will give me back false, because 13 is not equal to 2. But if I were to make it like that, then when I run it, it's true, because 13 equals to 13. Now, what if I were to make a value string? It would still give back true, because 13 is still equal to 13, even though that one is a string and one is a number in this case. And many times you don't want to make that mistake that a value is a string value when you're waiting for a number. So that's why we use 3 equation signs. And when I run it now, it's going to be false, because even though they are both 13, one is a string. The same goes for not equal, and that's only like this. If it's exclamation mark and an equal sign, that's the same thing as sorry, that's the same thing as the 2 equation mark, only that it means not equals. So a not equals to b, which in this case would be false, because a equals to b by the 2 equation mark standards. But I just put another equation sign there, and it will check for type. So the third one is for type check. And that's about all I wanted to talk about operators. And now on to the if statement. So I'm just going to rename this file. Ifs. Very nice. And I'm going to close this one, and let's put the ifs here. Now, in JavaScript we have Boolean values, which can be either true or false. That's pretty easy so far. And we have if statements, which looks like this. If you put a condition here, and that condition is gonna evaluate to either true or false. In this case, let's say it's true. And if the condition equates to 2, then it will do whatever is inside here. So let's say console.log the, as a string of course, the conditions were not and save it. And if we were to run this, now we change the file, so it's if the conditions were met, because it equated to false. If it's false and I run this, as you can see, nothing went out to the log because this condition was not met. Now if we want something, even if the conditions weren't met, we can put an else here, and we write the code that we want to do if it equated to false. And let's just say the conditions weren't met. And this backslash here is an escape sign. So because if I were to use this, then this apostrophe would have cancelled out my single quotation mark, and I didn't want that. So I escaped that character. So anything after the backslash, the next character is not counted as a character of. Yeah, you get it. Another way would have been to use double quotation marks, but you will find out later that when you have to follow style guides, this will not be an option here. So it's better get used to these kind of things. And if I run my code again, the conditions weren't met because it was false, so it went to the else, and voila. Now a practical case for this is condition here, and we don't have a condition yet, so if I were to run this program, it would just crash or cry because it doesn't have a condition yet. So let's create a condition. Const condition equals math with math.random. Now math.random is a function or a method of the math object which gives back a number between 0 and 1, and what I'm going to do is make it so that if math.random is bigger than 0.5, we have a 50% chance for that, and this is gonna equate to either true or false. If the math.random is bigger than 0.5, then it's going to be true. If it's not, then it's false. And let's see, run the program. We don't know if the conditions were met or not just yet. The conditions were met because the number was bigger than 0.5. Let's try again. Now the conditions weren't met. This is one of the uses of how you use an if statement. Of course, if we were to go okay, let's go with the condition is only gonna be math.random, and let's say if this one was smaller, okay, condition was smaller than 0.33, then we are gonna log out that the number was smaller than 0.33, and we can do something like else if and then an else. I'm going to show you how to do that then. So okay, sorry about that, 0.66. No, I did it right. tried the first time, and if the condition is smaller than 0.66, we are gonna log out that the number was bigger than 0.33 but smaller than 0.66, and else the only other case we have left is that the number was bigger than 0.66. And now we could give two specific conditions, and then we can see what happens. The number was bigger than 0.66, so it was above that. And if you want some visual aid for that, console.log. Let's use a templating string. The condition, is, and let's say this condition, like that. And now we will know what the condition is and where does it go to in the if statement. The condition is 0.075, so it was smaller than 0.33. If we run it again, it's 0.75 or 74, and it's bigger than 0.66. Let's see if we have the middle. Come on. Oh, there it was. The number was bigger than 0.33 but smaller than 0.66. So we have met all the conditions here. Now there are other kinds of if statements. For example, we have the switch case, and I'm just gonna use it like this. So actually, let's create an array. No, actually, well, whatever. Let something equal b, and let's create a switch case, which means that this is the condition switch. And at the switch we have the condition. We are just going to give it something here, and in case the value is, and let's put the value as wasp here, wasp, then console.log b as a string, the value was a wasp, and break. With the break you are closing the if statements. And we can give it another case. So if you would have a lot of else ifs in an if statement, you should use a switch case, because this is designed for that. And if the value is b, then we will log out yay, the value is a b, and then we are gonna break it. And under default we say if none of the conditions were met, you should log out to the console that I have no clue what the value is. And let's just say it was, to be consistent. Let's save it, and if we run our if statement now, as you can see, yay, the value was a b, because this is indeed a v. But if we were to say wasp, and run our code again, the value was a wasp. And let's say if it was a bumblebee, then I have no clue what the value was. That's how switch case works. Now to stick with this schema, I'm going to show you a third way, or a third kind of if statement. Let's change it back to B for now. And the next one is called the ternary operator, which is something like let's console.log, and then something equals, we start with the condition B. This time we know that something is in fact B, but just run along with me. And then, so this whole thing is the condition. I'm gonna break it up so you can see it better. Okay. This is the condition. After the condition we have to put a question mark, and then we write down what happens if, or what the value is if the condition is true. And this time, let's just say, yay, it is a B. Now the reason I'm only writing string, not a console log, because we are inside the console log, and with this we are gonna define what's gonna be the value inside the console log. Now this is if the condition is true, then I put a colon and tell the log what to write if it's not a B. Oh no, it is not a B. And that's about it. So console.log, either yay it's a B, or oh no it's not a B. We have these two choices. You can make an else inside a ternary, but it's not very readable, not clean code, so you should avoid it. I'm gonna show it to you in a second though, just so you understand. Now if everything went correct, it should put to the console, yay it is a B. And it in fact did, yay it is a B. If I were to say it's a wasp and run it again, then oh no it is not a B. Now to put an else if in there, we can just, inside the else, we say that something equals to wasp, question mark, we say it is a wasp. And if it isn't a wasp, we say it is okay, no, let's say oh no it is not a B. Now what happened here, I'm gonna close this one now, we don't need it anyway. Close this. As you can see, something equals B. If so, then just write yay it's a B. If it isn't a B, something equals wasp, and the wasp here is a string value, I'm sorry. So if it's not a B, let's see if it is a wasp, and if it's a wasp, then say it's a wasp. Else, oh no, it is not a B. And we are writing that because we are writing that because it is not a B and it is not a wasp, and we just want this to happen. And if we run it with wasp, it says it is a wasp because it is a wasp. And if it's a bumblebee, then oh no, it is not a B, even though bumblebee is sort of a B. Now if you want to structure it nicely in a code to be readable, you just make sure that the question mark and colon go to the next line always, and it's indented once like this. And since this question mark is even more indented, you indent it once more, and like that. And now it's somewhat more readable. Now, if I wanted to write this down as an if statement, I would do something like if something, I'm sorry, something equals b, then then what I would do is console.log yay, it is a b, else, and now I am going to use the same kind of structure which we are using in the ternary. I say if, so I'm nesting an if basically, so if something equals wasp, I'm gonna console.log it is a wasp, and else I'm saying console.log oh no, it is not a b. And as you can see, it's not very readable. So if you would have a lot of else ifs and stuff like, and it's nicer like this. If I were to do, for example, this else if, I'm just deleting this off. Else if it is a wasp, then do this, and else I'm opening this, and now I screwed up somewhere here. So let's clean this one up a bit. So if something is b, console.log yay, it is b. Else if something equals wasp, console.log it is a wasp. Else, and there's the problem, else console.log oh no, it's not a b. This is a nicer structure as soon as I indent it a little, because indeed it isn't very nice like this, and I have problems with this too. Okay, so this is a nicer way to say this same thing. So only use the ternary operator if there is two possible outcomes. I'm sorry. So this is the if statement I wanted to tell you about. If I were to run it now, I would get, oh no, it is not a B 2 times because it is still a bumblebee. But if I were to say B, then yay, it's a B. So let's just check this if I left out anything. Yes, this is not a good practice. I have touched that ternary. Yep. Okay, we have touched upon kind of everything here. It's written down here pretty detailed, so if you forget something you can just check it here. Everything that I've mentioned in the video is down here, so you can check it. It's in my GitHub repo, which is going to be linked in the video description. Okay, so I think that's it. Thanks for watching and see you next time.